Hey everybody, welcome back to my vlog. Today I'm going to show you the second half of a session I played last month in Franklin, Kentucky. I ran fairly well. I did not play my best. I was in the middle of a 2-month downswing when this was recorded, and you could tell my confidence was a little shook. I wasn't making the best decisions. I wasn't as decisive as I normally am when I play, and that shows in the video. I think making this vlog is helping me. I'm able to go back and review the tape a few days later, almost like a football team watching the game day tape a few days after they play. I'm definitely seeing some mistakes that I'm making, and I'm able to learn from them, hopefully. So thanks for watching. Let's go ahead and get started. In this first hand, we pick up the action after I open under the gun to 15 with ace-queen offsuit. A tight ABC type lady 3-bets me to 40. This clears the field back to me. An argument could be made for a nitty fold against this player type. Her 3-bet range is probably only queens plus. I don't think she's even ever 3-betting ace-king here. Of course, in the moment I wasn't playing my best, so I call and try to nuke her if I hit a flop or possibly take it away on a scary board. Flop comes down king, king 3, so I whiff, but this is the kind of scary flop I was hoping for to take it away. I check and she continues for 40. I flat, just like I would do with ace-king or king-queen here. The turn double pairs the board when the 3 of hearts falls. This is perfect. I don't think she's got a king unless she happens to have quads. Ace-ace and queen-queen can't be very comfortable right now. I check again, planning to check raise if she fires again, but she checks it back. At this point, I feel my read is right. She's either got aces or queens. The 5 of hearts falls on the river. A backdoor flush comes in, but this isn't really a concern for me. She's either got aces or queens. Period. End of story. I bet 75 trying to look like I'm milking her for value, but she snap calls me saying, nice hand, like she expects to lose. She rolls over aces and gets the pot. I'm not sure if I bombed it if she would have found a fold. An unbalanced jam for 375 would have put her feet to the fire for sure, and maybe she could have gotten away from it. Leave a comment below as to how you think I should have played this river. As an aside, I ran this through the solver. Ace-queen offsuit is a fold 100 against an under-the-gun +1 3-bet, which really isn't all that surprising. I simulated it like I had ace-queen of diamonds, so it would play the same post-flop. It pretty much played as standard by me, but once again, I'm not playing against solvers, so who knows. In this next hand, we pick up big slick, under the gun +1. Under the gun limps, we pop it up to 15 and get called by the low jack, the button, and the big blind, the limper, and one guy that was just walking by and saw a big pot brewing. 5 ways to a flop of queen 8 deuce with 2 clubs. Perfect. Checks to me and I c-bet 40 into the field. Everyone folds except the under the gun player. I've played with her before. She's a thinking player, can be sticky, but doesn't really seem to get aggressive unless she's got the goods. I'm putting her on a range of a single pair, 8s or better, clubs, or possibly taking one off with a gutter like jack 10 or 10-9. The turn is a brick 6 of hearts. She checks it again to me pretty quickly, so I feel nothing's really changed for her hand. I go half pot, figuring this should get rid of the pairs that aren't queens and any messy gut shots that she called the flop with. I think if I get called here, the only bluff I have is if a club comes on the end and I bomb it. She won't check a flush to me if she makes it. She's not trappy. She'd go for value if she made it on the end. Otherwise, I'm going to have to give up. She ponders for a few moments before putting in the call. The river is a beautiful king of diamonds. Unless she's got king-queen, I'm ahead at this point. She checks again pretty quickly. I go for a big value bet at 125 on the end, trying to get looked up by a queen. If I make it look like I missed a club draw, I could get called here. I was laying her just under 3-1, but she folds after thinking for a bit. Maybe she had a busted draw and couldn't call anything, but if she had a queen, I think I could have gotten a crying call if I bet 70 or so. On the plus side, since she folded, I didn't have to show that I 3-barreled with ace-king and got there at the end. That's good information to keep under my hat if I can. 2 hands later, we're in a straddled pot with pocket 8s in the big blind. 8s really aren't that overpowered. Even if I put in a big boy raise to 50, I could still go multi-way out of position, and that's not a world I want to raise my family in. If I can flop a set, I can nuke the world, and if I miss, I can get away with cheap. The straddle has different ideas and makes it 35 to go. I don't really have any reads on this guy at this point. I don't think I've seen him 3-bet pre before, so I think he has a legit hand. The sticky lady to my right calls, and the plan remains the same. Hit a set and put him in the trunk. Flop comes 6 high with 2 hearts. Not the worst flop to see when you're holding pocket 8s. At this point, I forgot about my plan of hitting a set or getting away cheap.
And I forgot. You ever forget? It happened to me.
The sticky lady and I check and flow to the straddler, who c-bets 45. She calls, and my brand new post-flop plan is coming together perfectly. I spring the trap and check raise him to 200. This should end the hand right here, because 8s are good here like always, right? He thinks for about 40 seconds, and I'm starting to look for my do-over chip. This really isn't how it's supposed to go. Eventually, he rips it in my face, and the other player folds. I guess the jig is up, and he has a strong hand. Right? It takes me a full minute to convince myself this guy hasn't gotten out of line all night, and pick this moment right here to lose touch with reality and pull his pants down with only ace-king. I flick in the call, and I'm instantly shown the bad news that every other person in a 30-mile radius already knew. Board runs out pure, and his pocket queens hold up. Gonna need some chips over here. I add on 200 more and take down a few small pots over the next hour to get my stack back up to 700 when this hand happens. We're playing 7-handed, and I pick up 10-9 offsuit in the cutoff. This might be a touch wide, but I know the button and blinds aren't going to squeeze without a premium, so I can take a cheap flop with borderline cards in late position. I limp in, the button limps, and we're going to see a flop 6 ways. Flop comes down 10-9-8 with 2 hearts. Good for me, but very dynamic. There's even a world where I'm dead to a flop straight, but I can't wait around to see what happens. There's only 20 in the pot, so a large 2/3 to pot sized bet will get called because of the absolute value being so low. I fire 15 and probably could have gotten away with even more. Maybe 25 or 20 would have gotten the same action. Anyways, I get called in 3 spots and we're off to a turn. That's the 5 of clubs. This doesn't change much except a second backdoor flush. A hand like Jack 10 of clubs just got a lot better, but this card misses the majority of the ranges I'm facing down here. I can't let off the gas. I feel that if I'm up against a flop straight, I'm going to hear about it on the street. It checks to me and I go for another 3/4 pot size bet. The button and Miss Sticky and the hijack both call. The river pairs the 8. I feel like there's still plenty of value here. Yeah, a few 8s could be out there, but there's a lot more 10s that are out there that can call. I've pretty much eliminated over pairs at this point, and I'm not worried about getting counterfeited. I bet 145, and in hindsight, I'm not in love with the sizing. If I'm targeting a single pair 10s, I need to make it smaller. I really don't feel like there's much that I'm beating that can call this size. If I make it 80, ace 10, king 10, queen 10, jack 10 can all call me, and these are the primary hands I should be targeting. As played, the button instamucks, so it's doubtful I was getting a dime out of him. Miss Sticky thinks for a bit before finding a fold. I guess she didn't have much either, but I still wish I had bet less on the end. We've now built our stack up and we're showing a modest profit in spite of playing almost every hand poorly. We look down at jacks and the hijack. Nice. Only a donkey would screw this up. We 3-bet Miss Sticky and everyone folds back to her and she surprisingly calls. Flop is 8-3 deuce with a couple of clubs. Finally, we're going to take her to Value City as long as this board stays pure. She checks and I down bet to 35. I want to keep in all the nonsense she could be holding and get 3 streets if the board runs out clean. She pretty quickly calls and I've got her right where I want her. Turn 7 of diamonds changes nothing. She checks and I'm trying to figure out turn and river sizings to extract the most that I can. I don't think we can get stacks in, but I can get a good chunk on the end if she calls here. I go small again to keep all the junk in. She check raises me to 225 without much consideration. Now this isn't part of the plan. Doesn't she know I have a premium? Obviously she makes a move because she knows I have it, and she also knows I'm such an amazing player that I can easily fold an overpair whenever I'm beat. Well, I'm going to show her. I'm not going to fold like a little bitch just because she fires the pot. Who cares if she raised pre even though she usually limps? Who cares if she check raised even though I've never seen her do it as a bluff? I ain't going out like that. Not today. River is the 6 of clubs and she cuts out 300 and challenges me again. I mean, there's a lot of busted draws. Even though I have the jack of spades in my hand, blockers are bullshit. I tell myself enough of a story that I figure there's a chance she's bluffing and I flick in the call and she shows me top set. Because the most obvious answer is usually the right one. And we're stuck again. An hour later, and I've worked my stack back up to 650, mostly by hitting a nice bomb pot that I didn't record. We're playing 6-handed at the moment, and the low jack can cut off both limp before the button makes it 15. If I was in his spot, I probably would have gone 20 or even 25. 15 isn't really going to thin the field that much, and in a late position, I really like to build a pot, but that's just me. Anyways, small blind folds, I look down at the king 10 of clubs. I definitely don't want to take this hand 4 ways out of position, so I bump it up to 55. LoJack folds, but the cutoff figures that his $3 hand is also worth 55 in double flats. This is the same guy from the last vlog that had the broken fold button. The button folds, so I do get it heads up and against a very wide but capped range. Let's see if I can outflop him because I'm not sure I can blast him off of anything. King in the window and I'm loving life. 9 of clubs and 8 of spades give me some backdoors as well, so it's time to milk this guy. I go for half pot, but my sizing is more based on what dollar amount I feel he'll call with his wide range. He's got about 500 in front of him, so 60 shouldn't be too uncomfortable. I can tell he's deliberating on a call or a fold, so I need to handle him carefully. He won't stand for much pressure. Turn is a blank 2 of hearts. If he called the flop, he should call the turn. The way he keeps looking back at his hand tells me he doesn't have 2 pair. He'd remember if he had king 9, so how much can I get? I want to keep it under 100. That's the number that seems to get people's attention. 85 is the price for the last card, sir. What do you say? Really quite a bargain. He counts out his chips, looks back at his stack to see if he can afford to chase, checks his cards once again to confirm that he's behind, and he calls. 6 of spade on the river. If he ran me down with a 7-5, well, that's just going to have to be the way it goes. Otherwise, I'm ahead of most of his king little, jacks, 10s that he would have played this way. All the busted gut shots won't call anything anyways. I lose to ace king, king queen, king jack, king 9, king 8, king 6. He could have ace king even though he double flatted pre. King 9 and king 8 are unlikely for my read on the turn. I'm going to go for thin value again, but I think I got greedy. I bet 220. I don't know if a weak king can call that. Probably only going to be called if I'm beat. Thankfully, he shows queen jack and mucks, so I didn't get hurt by my sizing here. I think I'm going for too many home runs on the river when I need to extract small but consistent value when I'm pretty sure that I'm good. Half an hour later and I'm in the small blind. I'm again sitting on a small profit. The best player at the table makes it 15 from the low jack. The high jack calls before it gets to me and I look down at big slick suited. This is a beautiful squeeze spot. Being out of position and with the caller in between, I want to size it up a touch so I make it 65. Blinds get out of the way before the opener 4-bets to 190. Hijack quickly folds and I'm faced with a decision. 5 betting is an option, but if he 6-bet rips it on me, I have to call even though I'm probably crushed. That's not my favorite way to dust off $950. Interestingly enough, the solver says it's about 50-50 between jamming and calling the 190. I didn't know this at the time, so I called. Knowing that jamming is solver approved, I probably would have gone for it so I wouldn't have to think about it on later streets. I could make ace-king fold, I've still got 34% against kings, and I'm flipping with queens and jacks. Overall, I'm a 2-1 dog against a range of queens plus, and there's a chance I can make queens and ace-king fold pre-flop. Lessons for next time. Anyways, flop comes king-jack 4 rainbow. Well, I hit my king. No getting away from this one cheaply now. This spot is a range check for me, and he down bets to 160. Kinda chunky for a 4-bet pot, but here we are. I can't do anything but call. I give it a few seconds before tossing in my chips. Maybe he'll think I'm considering raising and slow down on the turn. Turn is the 3 of clubs, giving me a nut flush draw. I check again and flow. I don't think a donk jam will induce any worse hand to fold. Even ace-king is probably calling for a pot-sized bet here. He checks behind pretty quickly. I'm thinking kings and aces would have bet here, so I think we've got the same hand. It's possible he has queens or jacks, although I don't think he's 4-betting jacks pre-flop. I could be wrong. And there's twice as many combos of queens and jacks, so making a set of jacks is even less likely. I'm feeling a bit better going to the river. 2 of hearts rolls off on the end, and if he happened to be bluffing with ace-5 suited, well, I'm just going to have to go jump in front of a train when the hand is over. No time to worry about that now. I check, he thinks, sizes up my stack, and rips it in my face covering.
Shit.
I felt like he either had ace-king or queens on the turn, but I've been paying off big hands all night. My confidence is shook. Let's see what beats me here. There's 3 combos of aces, 1 combo of kings, and I'll give him one of the 3 combos of jacks since I figure there's about a 33% chance he 4-bet jacks pre-flop. I'll toss out ace-5 suited for now. So 5 combos to beat me. There's 6 combos of queens. Would he jam them all in the end? Maybe. Let's give him 2 combos to represent a 33% chance he'd play queens like this. That might be an overestimation, but we gotta make some guesses here. That leaves me 6 combos of ace-king that would win me half of the pre-river pot, about $350. I didn't do the math I'm showing here on the fly, but I felt like this worked out to a plus EV call. And the final deciding factor is really simple. It's very difficult to win a pot if you fold. So I cross my fingers for luck, flick in the call, and get paroled when he shows me ace-king offsuit. Nothing better than risking my whole stack for a $36 win. An orbit later and I'm on the button. There's a raise and a call in front of me and I look down at Little Slick and bump it up to 60. I definitely want to play this heads up in position. Everything goes exactly according to plan when the big blind, the low jack, the high jack, and the cutoff all call. 5 ways in a bloated pot that is definitely not worth winning. Flop comes ace-10, 3 rainbow, so I guess we're in good shape against the field. They all check to me and I c-bet for 150.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
I don't know if this is a good sizing. Probably not going to get better to fold or worse to call. I might get one call from the pre-flop opener if he had queens or jacks, but other than that, I'm not sure. I'll be happy to take it down right here without any resistance if I'm being 100% honest. The big blind had been playing a lot of hands, and I think his first inclination was to call until he realized this would be for all of his chips. He definitely didn't have me beat, but you could tell he didn't want to lay down whatever he had. After a brief tank, he lets it go, and everyone else surrenders as well, and I make a cool 240 without much fighting. In the last interesting hand of the session, there's a $6 straddle on. The guy I went to battle with over the ace-king a few hands ago opens to 25. It folds around to me in the big blind, and I look down at 10-9 suited. I call, the straddle folds, and we're in for a rematch.
So let's keep it easy this time. Let's keep it easy.
The flop comes 9-5-4 with a spade. Pretty good for my hand and my range. I check it over to him, and he c-bets for 25. I looked it up, and the solver actually likes a check raise here, and I can see the merits. Lots of crappy non-spade overs can fall on the turn and make me hate my life. I have a range advantage here, so I should jump while I'm still in the driver's seat. As played, I called. I'm playing cautiously against this guy because I know he's capable of anything, and I'm liking the idea of booking a win for the session after being stuck 2 different times. Not the best line of thought, but that's the truth. Jack of spades falls on the turn. Now it's too good to play passively. I'm going to check raise him out of his boots if he bets again. I check to lay the trap. He bets 70 pretty quickly. That's a big bet for the pot size. I know theory says to raise less often when the bets are chunky, but this was the plan going in. I give myself a few moments and pop it to 200. And he thinks. And thinks. And thinks. Did I step in it here? If he 3-bets me, I hate my life. What could he have? I don't see him Hollywooding with ace-king here. Maybe an overpair? Before I can start openly weeping, he thankfully gives it up and I take it down for a nice win. That's it for this one, everybody. My 2 main takeaways from this vlog are 1, believe people when they tell me they have a good hand. They're not bluffing me, they're just betting the quality of their hand. It's really just that simple. And 2, I need to be value betting a little bit smaller when I believe my opponent's range is pretty weak. I'm going for big home runs on the end, trying to pick up a couple $100 with a thin value bet when they can't really call me with anything if they've got something like that. Go for the thin value, get paid, and maximize my wins. That's it for this one. I will see you guys next time.